What's up everyone and welcome to another episode of Kelvin's Garage. Today we have a very special episode for you. We are going to replace the front strut assembly on the 2006 Honda Civic. Now a few weeks ago I ran over this huge pothole on the freeway, and ever since then my front right side of the vehicle has been consistently making this crunch, crackle, crackle noise. Now I've checked all of the suspension components in that area, and I've come to the conclusion that it must be the damper, aka strut assembly. Alright, check out our beautiful new strut assembly from KYB, okay? KYB. And this one is KYB Strut-Plus assembly SR4241. That is for the passenger side, okay? And as you can guess, SR4242 is for the driver side, okay? Now this strut assembly here, they're fairly inexpensive, all right? I would recommend getting this over the strut and then doing all the spring compression and disassembly. I recommend this whole set. It is only $139.79 from Rock Auto, okay? And with shipping and tax and so forth, came out to $164.87, okay? So let's check out this beautiful new strut assembly. Alright, opening our KYB strut assembly. Voila! Voila! And now look at that. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? We got the instructions here, okay? And we have the whole strut assembly right here. Look at that. KYB Strut-Plus. Check it out. Now, as I may have said in the past, I like these parts which are pre-assembled in a huge assembly, okay? Because this makes life a lot easier, okay? But just check out the quality on this thing. This is the KYB Strut-Plus, okay? It's got the top hat thing right here, okay? It's got the spring, it's got the boot, okay? It's got the damper inside. And just look at it, everything's done for you already, okay? There it is, SR4241, assembled in the USA. And this is the part here, down here, where it attaches to the knuckle, okay? And yeah, everything's good to go, okay? It's got the cushion, okay? It's got all these cool looking tags here, okay? What not to do, etc. Do not remove the spring nut, okay? Under compression, okay? Do not do that, all right? And it also comes with the 3 nuts that go on top, okay, of the strut here, okay, the lock nuts. Okay, and that's it. Now, I only have one new one of these, okay? And this is really a direct replacement for the one that's already on the car, okay? The one that's already on the car is the same part number, okay? All that happened is that I blew the previous one, all right? And the great thing about KYB parts is that they have a lifetime warranty. So it turns out that if you buy this on Rock Auto, you can get a lifetime warranty on this. So every time you blow it up, they'll send you a new one. You just have to pay for shipping, and you can actually get another one. All right, and that's what happened in my case here, okay? So that's why I really love Rock Auto. So we're only gonna do the passenger side. We do not need to do the driver's side, but basically the idea is the same. However, they do recommend that you replace these in pairs, okay? So it's always better to replace it in pairs. Okay, we don't have much of a choice this time. The driver's side is in pretty good shape, so we don't need to change it. So we're just gonna do the passenger only. All right, but first let's take a look at our favorite website to find out what we need to do to replace the damper spring assembly, okay? So here is the photo of the entire spring assembly, and fortunately we don't have to go through all this, all right? But here are the tools that are required, okay? And again, we don't really need any special tools. It's actually quite a straightforward job. But basically we go down there, okay, remove the brake line, okay, the little brake line holder, okay, the hose bracket holder. Also remove the this wheel sensor, just that clipped part right here from the damper assembly, okay. And then we remove the 2 bolts here, okay, the 2 main bolts that connect the strut assembly to the knuckle, okay. Take those 2 out, and then take off the 3, okay, nuts on top that hold the strut assembly on top, okay, where the what we call the top hat, okay, is, all right? So remove those 3, okay, and there's a special service hole right here, okay? There's a little cap here that you can unplug to remove and access this 3rd nut here, Okay, so those are the flange nuts. And then the damper strut assembly comes right out, okay? Now I want to show you guys what steps that we are able to bypass because we have purchased the entire strut assembly. Now if you didn't purchase the entire strut assembly, you'd have to then go and disassemble the damper assembly, okay? Take off the top hat or the little cap here, okay? And you would start to have to disassemble this whole thing, okay? We have to use a spring compressor. Okay, who wants to do that, okay? That's a very dangerous activity here, to compress a spring and then to remove the top head. Okay, and then you got to do all these things here. You have to compress the strut inside, okay? You have to reassemble a certain way. Okay, we have to reassemble here. You have to align the cushion. Okay, who wants to align the cushion, okay? Then you have to set the angle here, okay? Very, very complicated stuff, okay? So we bypass all of this stuff, okay? And then we just reinstall, which is just the reversal of the disassembly. Okay, and you just put the thing back in, tighten the 3 nuts on top, tighten the 2 bolts on the knuckle, put the brake booster, okay, or the brake line mounting bracket thing here, and the wheel sensor, that little clip thing here, okay, very easy, the harness clip, and that's it, okay, pretty straightforward. Okay, so once you've got your car jacked up and on jack stands, just take off the wheel, 3/4 inch. Take off the lug nut. Okay, and then take off the wheel. And now we can see the inner workings of the strut assembly. Okay, if you take a look here, these are the 2 knuckle to strut assembly bolts that we need to remove. Okay, this is the wheel sensor, just that clip that we need to remove, and here's the brake line, okay, mount that we need to remove. Okay, we're gonna take out our brake line mount with the 12. Okay, that's the 12 right here. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, that's it. All right, set the nut aside. We are going to reuse it later. So let me just put it back into the assembly here so we don't lose it. Okay, and then with our plier, we just need to undo this little clip right here with our plier and just press it on the opposite side and push it through the strut assembly. Okay, and we'll just leave those 2 things dangling just like that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to loosen the 2 large strut assembly to knuckle mounting bolts, okay? So it's 19mm on the right, 17mm on the left, okay? And we're gonna use our wrench here and our breaker bar with socket on that side. Okay, with our 19 on this side, okay, we might even just be able to loosen it without using the wrench on the other side. So just loosen it. Okay, so the top one's been loosened. Okay, and then just go 19mm. Okay, there it is, it's loosened. Okay, so we're going to loosen the nuts and take them off, but we're not going to pull the bolt off yet, okay? So do not pull the bolt off yet. Just take the nuts off. And you're gonna see why in a second, because we also want to loosen the top strut nuts as well, okay? Otherwise, if you just take these 2 off, when you take off the top strut nuts, the thing's just gonna fall down, okay? So we want to have some controlled action when this thing falls off. All right, so let's get the lower nut here. Take it off with a regular socket wrench. Okay. Okay, there goes the nut right here. And here's the other nut. Okay, so this thing is actually under a little pressure here, okay? It's hanging, actually. It's hanging, and the strut itself is actually pushing the knuckle assembly down, okay? So you may have some difficulty just pulling this thing off, okay? So don't worry though, we will have a way to work it out in just a bit, okay? But just know that there is pressure coming from the strut here that we need to deal with. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up to the top here, okay? And if you see here, there is this little plastic cap here, okay? That is the cap that covers the service hole for the strut top. So what we need to do is it looks like we can actually access it with just popping this off, but let's do it right, the Honda way, okay? If we're on the driver's side, we actually need to move the wiper. So what we'll do is we'll move the wiper, turn it on, and then turn it off while it's in this position, and that will give us clear access to this mounting hole cap. All right, and that's it. We now have clear access to the access port here, okay? The access port here. And what we'll do is we're just gonna pop off this cap and we'll look down below. Just take a regular screwdriver here, flathead, okay, and just pop this up. Okay, and that's it, you see? Set that aside for safekeeping, and if we look down below, so we stare all the way down below, it might be hard to see, but you can actually get the strut bolt, okay? It might be hard to see right here from this angle, but I assure you, the nut is there. We're gonna open the hood, and we're gonna take a look at the service port over here, okay? So if you take a close look here, all right, it's a sunny day today, I apologize, but over here you just move this little weather strip out of the way, okay? And then there is this plastic cap here, okay? There's a plastic cap here. Remove this one also out of the way, okay? And this panel here, this access panel, just comes right out, so just pull up and out. All right, so this panel here, we'll set that aside, okay? And if we take a look inside here now, okay, we can see the strut mounting bolts, okay, the nuts. Here's one right here. Okay, there's another one right over here. Okay, another one right over here. Right here, okay, and then of course there's the one, if we go through the service hole, you can see it now, there's light, okay? Okay, so you can access these upper strut mount nuts in one of two ways, okay? So you can use a wrench, okay? Now I have an offset wrench here. Okay, they're pretty cheap at Harbor Freight, and I'll send a link below. But basically, it's a very odd size because I have an original KYB on there. It's 15 millimeter, okay, on top here. Okay, so you can access this. Now the one in the corner over here is a little difficult because there's this hose here, okay? The windshield fluid hose, okay? But you just use your finger, push it out of the way. You should be able to get around that one. Okay, this one is a little bit more straightforward, okay? Just goes around just like that, okay, with the offset wrench. And the one in the back here, okay, we actually didn't necessarily need the service hole. It's there so you can use it, okay? But we technically can access that one also with the offset wrench, okay? So let me show you guys. So that one, you see, we can actually access this with the offset wrench as well, okay? So it's up to you. If you want to use your socket and extension, you can go through the access hole, okay? But if you just want to go direct, you can use the offset wrench, okay? 15 millimeter for these KYBs, all right? So that's how we're gonna do it. So just take those nuts off. All right, and just like I said, if you want to use a special service hole, you can just insert your socket and extension through the hole, okay, like so, okay, see? Once you've managed to loosen all of the nuts, okay, you have to be very careful here, okay? Very careful because the nuts, do not let them fall back there, okay? If you let the nuts fall back there, you're gonna have some big trouble fishing them out. I did it one time and it wasn't pleasant. All right, so be very careful when the nuts come out. Otherwise, they'll either be stuck in there forever or you have to fish them out. Okay, if you notice here, I actually do not have the top cap here, okay, of the strut assembly. I lost that quite some time ago. Okay, I grabbed the other rubber cover from the other side just to show you guys what it looks like. Okay, but if I put that back here, it should look like this, okay? So this is what you should see when you first encounter the top of the strut mount. Okay, and this rubber cover comes off really easily, so don't lose that either. Okay, you just take it off, okay, and that's it, okay? This is what it looks like. SNA. Okay, I'm gonna be very, very careful. Otherwise you'll have a big headache. Okay, and we're gonna fish it out off camera. Okay, for this one you're gonna have to keep working at it a couple times, okay? It's a little tedious, but be patient, okay? Keep working at this one here in the upper corner. Okay, but this one finally I got it backed out enough, or I can undo it by hand. Okay, voila, voila. And this one here was pretty straightforward. That one's coming out without any issue at all. And that's it. Take this one out also, and do not lose the nut. Do not lose the nut. Okay, here it is. Okay, voila. Okay, and now that we've taken out the upper strut mount nuts, okay, we can take out these two knuckle bolts here. Okay, so we're just gonna knock them out with a mallet, like so. Okay, and just work them out. Okay, so that's one of them right here. Okay, and the second one right here, we just work it out with our pry bar or screwdriver. And you can see here now that it's kind of loose. Okay, the strut assembly will soon be free floating. All right, so you're gonna have to use a little bit of lift here. So I'm just lifting up on the entire thing. Okay, now this thing can technically fall right down. All right, so push the knuckle aside. All right, and then this thing's gonna fall right off. Okay, so I'm gonna change the angle here a little bit so you can see this, but move this away. Okay, don't damage the boot, and the whole strut assembly is going to fall. So support it. Okay, support it. All right, here it is. All right, so I've just taken out the entire strut assembly. Okay, here it is. Okay, it came right down. All right, so that's it. Okay, so you let gravity do the work for you. All right, now let's take a quick look at these two side by side. Okay, they should pretty much be identical. Okay, the only thing that you need to remember to do here is to transfer the brake line bracket mounting bolt, okay, to the new one. Okay, like so. But we can see here, you know, they've changed the labeling, okay, over the course of the last couple years here. All right, looks like they've done some things here. Okay, it used to be called XLG. Okay, now it's called Strut-Plus, but basically it's the same thing. Okay, the design has not changed. Okay, so pretty much this is what we'll be looking at, and we're going to install the new one. Another thing I want to show you guys is if we go back to the instructions, right, you see the upper strut mount, okay, has a label on it. Okay, there's actually an arrow here that points to front of the vehicle. Now keep in mind that this is the driver's side on the illustration here, but you see how this part here is kind of face outwards, okay, from the card, okay, towards the knuckle. Okay, and then the arrow on the strut mount has to point to the front of the car, okay, towards the front of the car. Okay, so what does that mean for us? Okay, so if you recall, here's where the knuckle is going to mount. If we go to the top of the strut, okay, you see here there's an arrow here. Okay, I know it's a little hard to see here, but you see that arrow right there? Okay, this means the top hat needs to be turned in such a way where this is towards the front of the car. Okay, the front of the car. All right, so we're gonna do that. Okay, you see the arrow? So right now it's pointed towards outwards, like this part here. Okay, so we need to turn this thing around. So I'm just going to lift it up. Okay, pardon the angle, and I'm gonna turn it. This actually turns, actually. Okay, you can see now that the arrow part, you see that right there? I've turned it towards my body, okay, which is the front of the vehicle. And then this lower part here points out towards the knuckle. Okay, so this should be at a right 90-degree angle, basically. So that should point outwards to the left, and then this should point forward on the passenger side install. Okay, we now look in the wheel well. Okay, if you look upstairs, okay, you see that is the upper strut mounting point. And what I like to do is I like to clean it up just a little bit, get a wet wipe and clean it up. You can do this from the top or the bottom. Just clean it up. Clean it up. Okay, like so. Okay, remember to take off these little thread protectors here. Don't try to shove that in with the thread protector. And also get the new nuts ready for installation. We can install the strut. We can move it all the way up through the top mounting holes, okay, and then bolt it down here at the knuckle, just like we did. Or what we can do is we can actually string it through to the top first, okay? So we're gonna string the strut assembly up through the top 3 holes, and then we're gonna come up here right away. Okay, right away, and then we're just going to stick one nut here, okay? But while you're doing this, okay, remember, come in through the front here, okay? And what you're going to have to do is kind of pop your head up and down from the bottom and to the top area to make sure that these 3 holes are lined up properly. Okay, so I'm gonna string through the 3. Here we go. I'm at the bottom here, but more or less Okay, more or less aligning here, and then I'm gonna string through one of them. Okay, just to hold it in place. And that should make installation easier down below. But get one of the nuts on there by hand, okay? And you see, it's kind of held in place right now. And then we can just hand tighten the other nuts. Okay, so at this point I very loosely hand screwed on these nuts here. Okay, all three of them very loosely, okay, so that there's play down below. And the only thing I want to remind you is be very careful with this one here, okay, because make sure it doesn't pinch, okay, the windshield wiper hose. So as you screw it on, you have to kind of move the windshield wiper hose away from it, okay, but make sure you don't pinch it. Okay, and now that we have kind of gently secured the strut assembly up top, we can now maneuver the knuckle through it, okay, very easily at this point. Okay, so we just maneuver it like this. The bolt comes in through the back actually, okay, and the nut is on the front. Okay, make sure you get that right, okay. So we're gonna string through. Okay, there's one of them, and the second one right here, okay. Just wiggle the knuckle as you need to get that bolt strung through. Okay, and voila, you see? Now they're both strung through. Now I know all I need to do is hand tighten the nuts, okay? All right, just tighten it to the point where they start to mate. And likewise on top, where it starts to mate. So remember to tighten these down. These should be 33 pound-feet, okay, 33 pound-feet. But do your best, okay, just tighten them as best you can. All right, because we don't have a torque wrench, but we're just gonna do the best we can here. And remember to tighten the back one over here. You can use the offset wrench, or you can just use the service hole. Okay, the service hole. Now, the newer nuts on the KYB, they actually do have the appropriate size nut. These are 14s, okay? And remember to get this pesky one here, okay? You gotta peel back that rubber piece here. And make sure you do not pinch the fluid hose, okay? But tighten this one with the box wrench the best you can. All right, and make sure it's a snug, tight fit. And then if you got it, put that rubber cap back on, okay? Get your plastic panel and put that back in, okay? So this comes in like this, comes in through the top right here, and then snaps into place. Okay, like so. Put this little rubber thing back in there. Put this little rubber thing back in there. Okay, and don't forget the service cap, okay? Service cap's right here. Okay, remember it wedged in like this. So we're just gonna put that back as well. Okay, before we put any torque on the bolts, okay, before we torque it down to spec, we need to load the suspension, okay? And I like to jack up the control arm, okay, right where the ball joint bolts are. Okay, so not on the ball joint itself, okay, it may have a grease fitting on there, okay, but get it on the part a little bit more on the vehicle, okay. Jack this up, okay, so jack it up, okay, to the point where it starts slowly lifting off of the jack stand, all right. So loading the suspension, okay, and there it is, okay. So tighten up the upper mounting bolts, and you're going to be able to see that as you tighten this brand new strut casing here, okay, as you tighten this is going to start pinching it, okay. So basically the strut casing, the metal here actually pinches the knuckle, okay, that's how it is. All right, so as we start to tighten it, it will pinch it, okay. But here's the lower one right here. Put a little more torque on it so it now starts mating with some pressure. Okay, and readjust the top one. These are brand new strut assemblies, so they need to be broken in more or less. And once you're at a comfortable point with tightening down these bolts, now we attach our torque meter here, okay, on the breaker bar. Okay, 19 on the right, 17 on the left, and we torque this down to 67 pound-feet. 67, okay? So here we go. Okay, that's 60. Okay, 67, okay? And we repeat on the lower one, 67, here we go. Okay, there we go, 67. Now we're going to reattach the brake line mount. Okay, that one's pretty easy. Hand tighten and then use a 12. Okay, that's in there now, and don't forget to clip this sensor, okay, wheel sensor back in, just like so. At this point, it is safe to let the assembly down, okay? It's safe to do that. Okay, so let's let the knuckle down. Put the wheel back on. Torque these to 80. Remove the jack stand and let the jack down. Alright, and that's it. Make sure you go on a test drive to see if the shock absorber is working properly and that you're not getting any funny noises or clunking. Alright, so if you found this video helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Kelvin's Garage.